couldn't walk to your door, couldn't bear to call.
Welcome to the Radiant Enchantress show today. Thank you for joining us. So today I'd like to introduce Cindy Stradling. Cindy is an author, facilitator, keynote speaker, sales agent, and coach. Cindy brings over 20 years of practical hands-on business experience to her work. Cindy believes each of us has untapped potential and loves the growth individuals experience with the effective training and coaching. Cindy works with Scarborough Women's Centre, delivering personal empowerment programs. She is also the founder of the annual Women Moving Forward conference, where women are celebrated for their courage to move forward in their lives in spite of difficult circumstances. The Women Moving Forward conference is held in Toronto at the end of May and June. Cindy owns and operates Athena Training and Consulting and works with corporations such as Canon Canada, 3M Canada, Scotia McLeod, BMO CIBC, RSA Canada, Marsh and Mercer, Express Scripts Canada, Wunderman, and Y&R. So welcome, Cindy. So today I'm super excited to welcome Cindy Stradling to our podcast. Cindy and I met through a mutual friend. I want to say 5 years ago, Cindy?
No, it would be 6 years ago.
6 years ago. Okay. So, and Cindy and my good friend Kennedy Jones help in organizing the Women Moving Forward conference in Toronto in Canada. So welcome, Cindy. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you, Jane. It's great to talk to you. It's been a while.
I know. I miss chatting with you. It's because I haven't been able to attend for the last couple of years. So this morning, I would love for you to tell our audience your story and how that story, the beginning of your life, and how you have managed to become the successful woman that you are today.
Oh, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I like a lot of people that are your guests. I didn't start out with a silver spoon in my mouth by no stretch of the imagination. But I want to preface everything by saying that, that saying that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I think most of the people that you talk to, that have, inspiring stories and have come through great and, tragedies and trauma and things like that, they build a resilience about themselves. And I think that, it's like any attitude, anything in life, it's your attitude about what happens to you. And so I just want to preface it by saying that. And I believe that, success should be determined on you. In fact, the book that I wrote is about determining success on your own terms because, we as humans, especially women, we have a tendency to measure ourselves against other people. And I think we do ourselves a big disservice whenever we do that because we all come with our own unique backgrounds and experiences. So, I grew up, my mother left my father when I was 4 years old and my 2 sisters. And I think most of my life, when I really think back till I was 9 when my dad remarried, there was a craving inside of me to be held and to be loved. I never felt like I belonged anywhere. And in lots of situations throughout my life, Jane, where abandonment was an issue. And like a lot of people, until you start doing some personal work or personal development work, you don't even know you're doing it, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And all this stuff is going on inside, and we've developed all these beliefs and things like that. And so it's no surprise that when my dad remarried when I was 9, my stepmother was just very cold. I don't want to speak ill of the dad. I think she did the best she could with getting 3 kids built into her marriage right off the bat. And she was in her late 20s. So it must have been a challenge for her. But I must admit, she was cruel. She was very, very cruel. She used to make us wear one set of clothes for a whole week, one set of play clothes, one set of school clothes. I used to have to bath in the same water as my two sisters after they had finished.
Wow.
Lots of really cruel things. And in fact, I went to a therapist many years later, and I laugh at it now, but she asked me, what would be the biggest highlight of your childhood? And I thought, and I said, I remember when I was going in the hospital to get my adenoids out, my stepmother let me use her bath water that had Elizabeth Arden, and it was still warm, which was so unique for me. And it was like,
wow.
now I just laugh, but it's pretty sad when you think about it. So, I left home when I was 15. We did not get along at all. And like a lot of women, I went with the wrong guy. I was pregnant by the time I was 17, had 2 kids by the time I was 19. And my ex-husband never wanted me to work. I was a stay-at-home mom, and that was fine for a while. But he was very possessive and very, very jealous. And it didn't matter what I did. And I remember he used to slap me around. And I remember I just had no confidence at all. Like, I was petrified to even speak. I remember one of my biggest things was we had this, I don't know if you remember shag carpeting.
Yeah, for sure.
And we used to have these rakes. And when we got the carpeting put in, he said, you damn well make sure you vacuum this every day. Like, he was threatening me. And I found this rake. So 10 minutes before he came home every day, I would rake the carpet so it looked like it was vacuumed. And it was like my little secret. And it was like, when I think about it now, but I mean, that was how afraid I was. And then one day I just said, no, I'm not, I don't want to do this anymore. And I originally was going to leave without telling him. And then I did tell him. And then the kids were miserable. They were really, really miserable. I went back to him, and he, it was 10 times worse, because then I got punished for spending the money. And I think it all goes back to, I was raped 3 different times in my life, and I never really got the impact of it actually until I was an adult. So I was raped by a family member when I was 7. And then it was actually rape at 13, but it was actually statutory rape because it was consensual for me. I honestly believed I was in love with him. And then I was raped again by another family member when I was 16. And
Wow.
so I realized that all of those, that I never want to emphasize all of that, because I've done my work and I understand, and I can, people laugh at me and say I could talk about it like eating an apple, but it wasn't always that way. But once you start to do the development work and really get, what difference it made in your life, and why it was natural for me to choose someone who abused me, because at a very, very deep level, I didn't feel worthy. Yep. But I didn't know all of that at the time. And then when I came back the second time with my husband, one day I just snapped. I just said, I can't do this anymore. I literally got in the car, I drove, I sat at the beach, petrified. I came back and I said, I'm leaving. Only this time I'm going to see a lawyer. We're going to do it right. And he said, I'll never make it. And I did. Obviously now, I mean, I've been gone since 1978. So
wow.
Time. And I raised my 2 boys. He disappeared after a year.
Yeah.
And I raised my 2 boys on my own. And I didn't finish school for many, many years. I suffered from not feeling, I don't want to say smart, because I know I'm smart, but I didn't feel maybe qualified because I only had grade 8 education. And, I went back to school when I left my husband, and I became a florist. I was a floral designer for many, many years.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Even at one point, my sister and I had a shop where I worked there, and I was raising my 2 boys, and she worked full-time days, and then I worked full-time days in the flower shop, and vice versa. And then she got pregnant, and we realized, so we sold it. We actually did very well with it. We sold it and got our inventory costs back. And then I realized that I needed to do something different. I did get another job at another florist shop, but when you have a dream that you want to do something and you're focused on it, and then the dream becomes a reality, it's like you can't go back, Jane.
No.
So I worked for this gentleman for a short time, and I realized no. So I went back to school. I had to take upgrading. And actually, it was really funny. The course that I was going to take was going to teach me some accounting, some IT, a little bit of I won't even call it IT, some software like Lotus 1, 2, 3. And the funny story with that was when before I could go, I had to get my grade 12 upgrading, and you had to be able to type 40 words a minute. Well, I had never typed in my life, so I rented an old IBM Selectric and I put it down in the basement. And my mom used to listen. My mom was an awesome typist, and she'd come down. "You've got no rhythm," she'd say. "You got no rhythm." And I practiced and practiced. And I think I tried at least 5 times. And I would go in. I remember Sandy, she was in the test center, and she'd go in. And honestly, I don't think I ever made it to 40 words a minute. I think she just gave it to me because I
That's funny.
Oh, that's so funny. It was great. And then I went to school for, I was about 1.5 years altogether, almost 2 years. And I was actually chosen valedictorian, which was a feather in my cap. I felt really good about it. I worked really, really hard. Very, very challenging to raise 2 boys, go to school, and you know, and I remember getting a student loan. I was going to do it without a loan if I could, but I got a loan so I could buy a computer so I could be home in the evenings. Because at that time, it was back in the floppy disk time and all that.
Yeah.
And, I remember my brother-in-law, it was really funny. I bought a 20 meg hard drive with 2 floppy disks, and he goes, "Oh my God, you'll never use that amount of memory in your whole lifetime."
And now we use gigabytes, right?
I know, it's so funny. But that enabled me to come home right after school and have dinners and work and do all my assignments. And then after that, I got a job working for a manufacturing company, and you know, then it just progressed over time. And I remarried again at 40, I guess it was 42. And that marriage lasted for 7.5 years. And again, I married someone who, and I didn't see it at the time, who would reject me. And so for the last 3 years of our marriage, we were like brother and sister. And then one day I just said no. I could see how far disconnected we were. And, you know, the advantage that I have, I believe one of my strengths is when I see something isn't working, I take the steps to make the change.
Yeah, that's very brave, because sometimes it's really difficult to do that.
Yeah. But I have to reach a point, right? It's like you almost reach I just know when I coach people, like they're stuck there for years and years and years. I have a tendency not to stay stuck too long. The other side of the coin, sometimes I jump too quick in other situations. So it's a sort of a double-edged sword. So in some ways it's good when, you know, I've crossed that line. And then I started my own business. I was working for a company 13 years ago. I started my own company, and I'm in a training and development company. And I act as an agent for other trainers, coaches. I got my certificate, my coaching certification. I got my adult certification. I have my CSP, which is the Canadian Professional Sales Association's designation. So even though I don't have a degree per se, I feel like I have a life's degree. I feel like I've gotten my education through whatever you want to. In fact, I call it, I think Zig Ziglar used to call it your university on wheels, because I listen on tape, and I'm always, you know, buying books. In fact, my mom says I have the most boring bookcase in the planet, because it's all coaching stuff, sales stuff, growing your business, you know, understanding your brain, all those kind of things. So
that's an awesome library, Cindy.
Yeah, I said, "You'll not find any Daniel Steele in there," and she just laughed, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, what I realized is that one time, and how the whole Women Moving Forward conference came about, was I was listening to I don't know if it's a podcast or something on an interview of some sort, and it said 7 in 10 women return to abusive situations because they don't see an alternative.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of those things, Jane, where something inside of me said, you know, you can get angry about this, but maybe it's something you should do something about, Cindy. You know what it was like, how awful it was when you went back the second time. It's like 10 times worse. They were saying some women go back up to 5 times.
Yeah. I know. And inside you feel, I'm guessing you feel really unworthy for everything. So that's what you do.
You do. You just don't feel like you have any other choices.
Hmm.
And your self-esteem just goes right out the window. But I think the biggest part of all of that for me was we all have blind spots, and you're living in this sort of bubble, if you will, of this is your reality. And
Hmm.
until you can have something sort of burst that bubble and you can see outside of that area, you're not going to be able to make a change. So I looked at my own life and I thought, how did I make a change? Like, what was it? And I remember my sister and I went to a Jack Canfield conference. Oh my
Mm.
gosh, many, many years ago. It was before Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Yep.
And it was called Peak Performance. And we bought the tapes and it made a difference for us. I remember leaving there thinking, yeah, things could be different. It doesn't have to be this way. And so I thought, okay, and I sat down at my computer and I said, if I could do anything, what would I do? I said, okay. And then I just started typing and I just said, I'd form a committee. We'd have it free for 100 women to come in, and we'd have speakers and trainers and coaches, and we would have breakfast and lunch, and everything would be high quality and good goodie bags, and buy them books and just give them tools and everything like that. And then that's when I decided to write my book. So I decided to write my book based on my own history, and it's a kind of book where it's got lots of pages and you do your own journaling and things like that. So it was a combination of those two things, and we've been doing it now. It's into our 6th year, if you can believe it.
That's awesome.
We've got so much sponsorship now. We have so much support. We have wonderful volunteers. I got an amazing committee. So even beyond, because I work alone, one of the advantages of having the committee is I have lifelong friends now. I have people that, I can count on no matter what. And, they say that as you get older, one of the keys to longevity and good quality of life is the circle of friends you have around you to support you.
For sure.
So for me, that's what I'm doing. And so for now, really what I'm focusing on is I'm building my business for the next 3 to 5 years. I want to semi-retire when I'm 70. I'll be 66 in June.
Mm-hmm.
And continue with the Women Moving Forward conference. I'll continue with working at the Scarborough Women's Center. I do some one-on-one coaching. I also do some training there, and just continue to grow. And then eventually I want to do a podcast too.
Nice. Well, you can certainly help you with that one. So tell us a bit about your coaching business. How did you manage to get into the coaching industry?
Well, it's actually a really funny story, because I believe that if you put it out there that you want something different, and even if you don't know what it is, if you're aware, it'll show up. And I vet in my Athena Alliance business, I vet all the people that come into my alliance. I see them in action, all of that. And one of the gentlemen that was already in my alliance was running the program through Erickson, which is called the Art and Science of Coaching. I sort of knew what coaching was at that point, but not 100% sure. So I said to him, I'll come on. It was a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday and Sunday. And then there was 4 modules, so 16 days of training. So I said, well, I'm not going to go to all 16, but I'll go to the first day, and that'll give me a sense of, the content, and then I'll get to see the workbook, and I'll have a better sense of what it's all about. Well, I fell in love. I signed up. I cleared my Friday, I cleared my Saturday, and I signed up. And it was the most incredible thing was on the Monday. So keep in mind, nowhere in the world did it ever say Cindy Stradling was a coach. Nowhere, right? And I come to a client that I already had an existing appointment with. It was about 11 o'clock on the Monday. And we were talking about a customer service program that one of my partners was going to run for them. And as I'm walking down the hallway, she says to me, she said, oh, I almost forgot. I have 2 very, very high potential young ladies I'd like you to coach. Well, you could have pushed me over with a feather. So I was like, how did you know? Like, it was like in my head, it was like, how did you know? And anyway, what's even funnier about that is that one of the girls was totally in the wrong job. I mean, the beautiful part of coaching is self-discovery, and she is now an international speaker. She's also a coach. Because I said to her, are you really happy in your job? And she goes, not really. She said, I don't know. She said, I want to do what you do. And so she not only does what I do, she does it better and bigger. It's crazy. It's fabulous. Yeah, so that's really inspiring. And so now I work with a lot of entrepreneurs on sales training. One thing I'm really good at is getting my foot in the door of organizations. And I find the one thing that entrepreneurs, male and female, are often missing when they start their own business is the process and the right verbiage and everything to be able to sell and promote, the right attitudes and the right habits. So I work with a lot of entrepreneurs. I actually call it resilience coaching.
Nice.
Because that's really what it takes in anything, but I focus a lot on sales.
That's awesome. So do you, your clients, are they all in the Toronto area, or do you have long distance clients?
I did some work with an organization where we focused on ADHD for a while, and I used to have all across the States. I haven't gone further than the States, but yeah, I'm still a client in New York right now.
Oh, that's awesome. So good. And do you use something like Zoom, or how do you do that?
All over the phone.
All over the phone.
All over the phone. And
right.
I've actually tested it both ways, and we find that there's less distractions when it's just get right down to business when it's on the phone versus even the seeing each other and then sort of, not you want to get rid of the niceties because you want to have a little bit of a rapport to start with. But one of my clients brought that up to me. She goes, because I was a face-to-face person with her, and then her daughter got sick and she had to be home for 2 of our sessions, and we did it on the phone. She said, it's so much more efficient. We don't have to any of the niceties and waiting for the waiter to bring us coffee and all of the interruptions and all that.
Yeah.
So personally, that's my favorite way to do it. I would do Skype. I have done Skype if that's what the client wants, but most people, once they've done it, they totally get it.
That's awesome. That's so cool, Cindy. So I'm wondering, you talked a lot about personal and professional development. What was I think you may have said this and I may be repeating, but what was the pivotal one that you did? Was it the Jack Canfield one?
Yeah. In fact, my sister and I laugh at it because there was 3 things that still to this day we remember. And one of them was inch by inch, success is a cinch.
Oh, that's cool.
And the second one was the universe rewards action.
Yep.
And the third one was, if it is to be, it's up to me.
That's very cool. I love those. Those are awesome. Because it's a bit like what we've done over the last 10, 15 years. That's how I met Karen, actually. Has done a lot of personal and professional development. And it's like, okay, so now we just have to help other people
do the same thing. Yep.
Do the same thing. Exactly. Do you have, I know you talked about your library, but do you have a couple of favorite books that you could recommend to our audience?
Oh, my absolute favorite one now is by Carol Dweck. It's called Mindset, the New Psychology of Success.
Okay, that sounds great. I'm not
It is
familiar.
fantastic. There's actually an online questionnaire that you can do that'll assess your mindset. Because honestly, Jane, I believe mindset is everything.
Yes.
And we have fixed mindsets. Even though we can be totally have a growth mindset in a lot of areas, I was surprised at the number of areas where I actually had a fixed mindset still. Even with all the development work I've done, all of the stuff, there were still some areas where I could, oh my goodness, this is crazy. It's a fantastic book.
Yeah, I think there's always room for improvement because, we're human beings, and however well adjusted or happy or go with the flow we are, there's always parts that could be improved.
Absolutely. And because who you are today is completely different than who you'll be next year or 2 years or whatever. So it's just, people will say to me, oh my God, you're taking another course?
Yeah, I've done a couple of things recently that were really sort of mind-blowing and life-changing. And, you think after a while that you don't need to do anything else. And then that happens and it's like, wow.
Yeah.
Just learning about yourself and who you are, really makes a huge difference.
Yeah, for sure.
So is there anything else today you'd like to share with our audience?
Well, it's funny because I did a podcast. There was a couple of weeks ago with actually she was a prior client to mine. And I have a little I shared it with her, and afterwards she said, oh my God, that was the perfect way to end. And I'm going to do the same thing with you. I have in my hand, it's a tiny, it looks like a credit card size, and it's the date on it is 1992. And on the one side is the calendar, and on the other side there is a poem, and I'm going to read the poem. And I think this is really who I am, and I know you to be too, Jane. It's when things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the road you're trudging seems all uphill, when the funds are low and the debts are high, and you want to smile, but you have to sigh. When care is pressing you down a bit, rest if you must, but don't you quit. Success is failure turned inside out, the silver tint of clouds of doubt. And you can never tell how close you are. It may be near when it seems afar. So stick to the fight when you're hardest hit. It's when things go wrong that you mustn't quit.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's so true too. And we all, I mean, however successful we get in life, there's always times when you have difficulties or you fail, or somebody says, oh, you'll never be able to do that. And it's like, sometimes you listen to those things and you have to be really aware and say, no, I'm going to move forward.
Yep, that's true. That's my motto.
That's so cool. Thank you so much, Cindy. So you've been mentioning a book. If you'd like to send me a link to that, I don't know if you have it for sale online or how you have that, but if you have a link to that, I'd be happy to place that online for you.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, you can get it through Amazon.
Awesome. So send me the link and we'll add that to our resource page.
Wonderful.
So I want to thank you so much for your time today. It was such a pleasure chatting with you again. It's been a couple of years since we've talked, and hopefully it won't be that long again.
I don't think so. I'm going to make it happen this time, yeah.
Oh, that'd be great. So thanks a lot, Cindy.
Okay, thank you very much, Jane. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Aria.
You are a goddess.
We hope you enjoyed this enchanting conversation today, and we look forward to having a new conversation with you in our next show. Our shows will be broadcast approximately every 2 weeks. We wish you much love and light in your life today. Thank you.